Welcome, my friends. It's me, Dashma. Today we're excited to have a guest from one of our graduates, actually. Her name is Floor, and she is from Amsterdam and, well, the Netherlands, I guess. I'm not sure I think she's a little outside of Amsterdam. But anyway, so she is going to be coming on today to share some of her amazing wisdom about anatomy and physiology because she has a background in as a physical therapist, and then she got in love with yoga, and she ended up doing her advanced teacher training with us online, and also came to a live training with me. So I'm excited. She's going to be coming on at some point. So up until then, I will share, and then whenever she comes on, she's going to lead. And so if you have the anatomy book, you might want to have that. It's not required to follow along, but she will be kind of showing some things from that book. And if you're doing the yoga teacher training, the reason that we chose that specific anatomy book is called The Anatomy of Yoga by Leslie Kaminoff. It's actually the best one in the world. And he's done a number of variations over the years, and each one is great. Some people ask me which version should they get. It doesn't really matter. He didn't change it that much. He just upgrades it periodically and does different things. But one of the things that's super interesting about that book is that how he did the photos, because they have all these pictures of people doing yoga poses, but you can see their muscles like through the, like as if they have no skin. You can see the muscles and the joints and like what exactly is happening during the pose, right? So this is really valuable to understand. So when you start to have this lens of understanding, oh, here she is. When you start to have the lens of understanding of, like what's really going on with these people, like in this physical pose, then it can be a lot easier to help them, like if somebody's having an issue or whatever. So this is why this anatomy book is so important, and it's also why we're bringing on Floor today, and she's going to be going over a lot of this with you and answering questions. And the way I see yoga, it's multidimensional. Of course, we have the mind, we have the body, we have the emotions, we have our spirit, we have so many components. And in flow state yoga, we also take into consideration a lot of other things. So like trauma and ancestral healing and a lot of things like that. But in this specific topic, we're going to be very physical in terms of the orientation of the anatomy, and the physiology is a very physical aspect of the practice. And it's really important to know, and most people don't have a background in this. You can post a comment if you want, if you do have a background in this, because I would say if you're in our yoga teacher training or in our community and you have a background in this specific topic, it's very valuable actually, because most people find it a little daunting and it's a little bit complex, and it's like a science. So if you have this like as a innate interest and or a skill in your background that you're just good at anatomy, then if you're in our training, I would just mention that you could make that a focus of your specialty. And one of the things that can really set you apart in any new career field is specializing. So I remember when I first started out, there was this wonderful young girl. Well, she was like in her 20s probably, but she was similar to Floor because she was like so good at anatomy. She had a background in pre-med and stuff like that. So she had to learn all of this from her college degree. So she was really good at it. So what she did was specialized in that one aspect of teaching yoga. And then she was so smart that she decided to start partnering with a lot of different yoga schools, and she would actually teach the workshop on the anatomy and physiology to the students. And it was a benefit to everyone because she knew it so well and she enjoyed teaching that. And then like the head of the school, we're always looking for people who are good at something that we could showcase your skills to our community. So what happened was she came in and taught the workshop, and it was a really cool workshop. Now I'm imagining, because Floor taught this at our live training in Bali, and it was really, really good. Everybody had so many questions, and at the same time, she's really good at answering the question. the one that I remember during my teacher training 18 years ago, what she did was she actually took us through an actual flow in a yoga class, and then each pose we had to hold for like 20 minutes, it felt like, because she was like pointing out each muscle that we were activating during that pose. So it was a really challenging class, and it taught this in a unique way. And then there's other ways that you can teach it and learn it. So today, because we're online, Floor's going to be teaching it in a different way, and maybe also still, my goodness, there's like a fire truck or something. Maybe also she'll be able to get you to do a few poses so that you can actually feel what she's talking about. And also you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions, but she'll let you know, like, if she wants you to do that at the end or if she's open to you doing it throughout. Sometimes it's not the best if you ask questions throughout, because kind of like throws the teacher off the kind of track that they're on if they're like explaining something. So you might ask her, like Floor will let you know. And if not, then you can write your questions down and then you can ask them at the end. But this is invaluable, not only for your own practice and for your own well-being, and then also as a teacher. And one of the things that I found early on when I was like a starting yoga teacher, and I was like, I became so curious because I wanted to know how everything works. And the reason that that got even more pronounced was because I would have clients that had very specific issues, right? So this one lady I was working with, she had a hip problem, and her hip, she had a huge trauma in her hip when she gave birth to her children, and then it caused her to not be able to walk. And she was not able to walk for like 10 years, even after 2 hip surgeries. So it was like this really unique case study where I worked with her for 3 years, 2 to 3 times a week, working through this trauma and also getting this hip to open up again, because she hadn't been able to walk for like 10 years, even though she had 2 hip replacements. And what we realized was the lock muscles that had happened to her came from and as a result of the trauma. And that's how trauma can work. So trauma can be physical, and it's also emotional and mental and spiritual. So it has so many layers. And so when we talk about trauma, there's different kinds of trauma, right? So let's say you were in the military and you witnessed like somebody killing people. That's a trauma, right? Psychological, emotional, spiritual, but maybe physically they didn't get hurt, right? So that, but sometimes and many times when we have mental and spiritual and emotional types of trauma, it actually locks itself into our cells somewhere in the physical body, and then it creates a physical problem. And usually there's some kind of correlation between the two. So a lot of people don't know that, they don't understand the connection. So they're like, I don't know why my back pain, and it's like, okay, let's look at the bigger picture, right? Like, so if you understand the energetic body, and this is a lot what we talked about last week, the koshas, and it's interesting because I can show you, if you guys are, obviously, hopefully you are reading Journey to Joyful, which I'm so excited, by the way. We're going to be releasing a new version of Journey to Joyful, the book, and it's a much updated version, which I'm really, really looking forward to share with you. And we're going to be also be releasing Journey to Joyful on an audiobook. So this is happening this year. I can't say exactly what day, but pretty soon, because we're almost done. But the point that I'm making is that I'm going to show you just really quick in a screen share in the book Journey to Joyful, the visual of what I'm talking about with the koshas, which is the layers of your energy. And we can start to really understand from the perspective of, if something like happens physically to us, it also can affect all the other layers, and vice versa. If something happens in our life that's traumatizing in the emotional level, it could create a trauma that affects our other layers of our body too. So this is super critical to understand as a yoga teacher, because so often a lot of people are just teaching from a perspective of like, like, here are these poses. You want to sweat, so make the room hot or whatever. There's a lot of different ways that the yoga is being taught, but this is really important. I'm going to show you, hopefully you can see this. So this is the this is in Journey to Joyful. This is in the ebook version. So this image here is the 5 koshas. So the 5 koshas are the layers of your body. So you can see the red one. This is the physical layer. And then we have the orange, emotional layer. No, so these have a Sanskrit word. So the physical layer is the Manomaya kosha. Then we have Pranamaya kosha. Actually, Anandamaya kosha. And then we have Pranamaya kosha is the energy. Manomaya kosha is the emotional. The wisdom layer is called the Vijnanamaya kosha. And bliss layer is called Anandamaya kosha. So Ananda is the word for bliss. So you can see that currently it's on page 24, but we're going to, like I said, be upgrading the book, so it'll be on a different page pretty soon. But anyway, the bottom line is you want to understand your body in this way. So you can see the interconnectedness, and that we store trauma on the physical cells, but also in these other layers. So when we're working with people, you want to always kind of consider them like this multidimensional being. Nobody is one-dimensional. Even if they're currently not aware of the other dimensions, we all have it. We all have other dimensions to our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And what we're aiming to do is clear all the trauma and the static from those layers so that we can just be a clear channel to the bliss sheath, the Anandamaya kosha. So if we can clear all the trauma and all of those disturbances from the field and from our physical, but from the field, then no disturbance is between us and that bliss. And that bliss is our divine true nature, which is our God consciousness. And, you know, you see children when they're born and they are just blissful and totally present. And that's the energy we want to get to. We don't want to be thinking about the past. We don't want to be like worrying of the future. We want to be present in this moment and joyously, whatever we're doing is perfect. Like now, of course, that is not the day one usually what happens, but like with time, I've noticed, I mean, I've been teaching yoga for 18 years, and it's funny because a lot of people always told me, even 10 years ago, people that knew me 20 years ago used to say, how come you look like you're like younger and you have more energy than 20 years ago? And I want to share this, it's super important to understand, is that trauma and stress and our mind and other things are what makes us age. It's what weighs us down, right? So for example, when I was 20 and I didn't even know I had like so many problems, actually I thought I was like doing pretty well. Like so it's funny because most people don't even have the awareness of like the level of problems they have. It's just like life. They're like, this is just me. But it's like once you gain an awareness of like the level of traumas that you're actually like carrying that are heavy, and it's heavy, it's energetically heavy, it's emotionally draining, it's physically energetically draining. So a lot of people who are like trying to just drink coffee all day to get energy and just can't figure out why they don't have any vitality, it's so often they don't realize that it's like there is some emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic drain going on that's like sucking the life out of people. So this is also directly correlated to our physical health too. So then you can see people, that's why in the modern world we have so much sickness and illness and disease. I mean, I don't even think we had cancer like 100 years ago. I don't know if you guys, I don't know. I just, you never heard about it until like this century, things like that. And so those conditions, whether it's cancer or other sort of like fatal and debilitating types of sickness, are a condition of the modern dysfunction of society. And the dysfunction of society is that, first of all, the food that we're consuming is not healthy, most people. And then the emotional, physical, mental energy that's going on through like the way that we live, the environments we live in, the technology addictions, all these things, it's just like literally like draining. And you just think of your energy like a big, you know, like let's say bathtub, right? And then you just don't have the like stopper in. So like you're filling your tub with like coffee or food or whatever. It's just like draining out the bottom. So you never feel like that vitality, right? So the first step is like putting the stopper in, and that stopper is awareness. The stopper is having an awareness that your energy is your responsibility. Our energy is our responsibility. Our healing is our responsibility. And that there is a wonderful solution to everything. It starts with awareness, but the way I see it is that it, like, finding the right path that will serve you in this way is the most important essential ingredient to living your best life. So that's why I think of flow state as that path. The path, so it's not just like one thing. It's not just like, oh, flow state, we do these yoga poses. It's actually, there's so many aspects, right? So we do breath work, mantras, EFT, like mind meditations, like inner child healing, trauma healing, physical practices, movement, and then diet and nutrition, cleansing your gut, healing your digestive. All of these aspects are a part of the big picture of total wellness. And what we want to do as an individual is become really good at that. And then you want to be able to be good at teaching others. And this is the gift that keeps on giving, right? So if you learn how you can improve your health and vitality, you can add 10, 20, or more years to your life. And one of my favorite sayings is that life is not about the number of years in your life, it's the amount of life in your years. And I love that saying because so many people are not even living their life. It doesn't matter. Like your life is no joy, and you have like you just feel bad or like your energy is low and you're just trying to struggle. Like this is not the optimal life. So what we want to do is optimize our life, optimize our energy, and then teach others to do that. And this is a beautiful way that we can like be the change we want to see in the world. Now, it's not just about having more energy, but the interesting thing about energy is that it's correlative. And we've talked about this a number of times. Well, if you've been a part of my community for a while, there's this emotional tone scale, which I'm actually going to pull that up for a second now too, so you can see it. But basically, that there is a kind of scale, we'll call it, or like, there's a range of energy, and what you want to do is you want to be at the highest end of that range at all times. Like you really don't want to, like have to deal with being at the bottom of that very often. Now, every human being goes to the bottom sometimes, so I never judge that. I've been to the bottom many times, but like you don't want to stay there, so you want to be really good. You want to get really good at, I hope you guys can see this. Leave a comment if you can see this. This is what I call the emotional tone scale. Oh man. Okay, I don't know what the heck is going on. Let me try that. Let's see. Okay, you can see it? I just want to ask so I can make sure. Okay, Lori says she can see it. Okay, so this is something, we're adding this into the flow state book anyway, or into the Journey to Joyful, but this is something we talk about all the time, and this is an energy scale, and I'm excited to share about this more and more. I learned about this over like 15 years ago, and it's like from the foundation of what I've been teaching for so long that it actually is the basis of where we came up with Flow State Institute. Because as you can see, flow is the energy of love and joy. So it's like, okay, once you get up to the highest one, which is like enlightenment, then they just call this pure consciousness. So that's a different frequency actually. And I'm not saying we don't want to live in pure consciousness, but the majority of people don't live there all the time. There's just like a handful of people that live there that they're called enlightened. But like we want to live an enlightened life, which is in flow state. So in flow state, you want to be in love and joy and hopefully peace as much as you can. Like that's the ultimate like aim for this. And that we want to spread that to other people. So if we can spread that to other people as a part of your dharma, that you are like, as your career or like the work that you do is spreading love, joy, and peace and helping people to get to that vibration, then your contribution on this planet is doing a tremendous benefit. And the reason I say that is because as you know, we have wars, we have conflict, we have division. I mean, the whole world, like if you're going to look at this, okay, where is the majority of the world right now? Let's look. Anger, 150. It's like down here. We have fear, a lot of fear, grief, people dying. you know, all the way. So we have like a lot of people between 75 to 150, right? So this is where a lot of the world is. And then there's lots of people in anger. Anger is like they're just upset that this is all happening, you know, and then they're like making a lot of stress about that. And so what happens is when you're in this bottom half, that this is where sickness and disease is really happening a lot. So when your body goes into these lower frequency vibrations, it actually naturally becomes sick, and the immune system is down, and you get more prone to diseases and things like that. Now, if you know people, I'll just mention, you might know people who, let me come back. You might know people who, you know, have a good vibe, but for the most part, but then they have this like underlying thing that they're always kind of dwelling on. And I'll mention because I had this for a long time. So mine was grief. And I'll say, because I'll go back to that really quick so you can just see the grief one. So grief is 75. You see how low grief is? And the other one is shame. Most people don't know shame is the lowest. The lowest thing is shame. Okay, now I want to mention. So I had grief and shame really bad for a long time because of my childhood and because of the things that happened to me when I was a kid. Jennifer, I'm currently healing shame. Thank you for sharing that, beautiful. So shame, here's the thing, when we carry any shame, right, what happens is it's like that when I talked about the bathtub, right? The drain is not, the stopper is not there. It's literally just draining energy out the bottom. So we're working so hard to like get our energy up and feel good and like all these things. We do yoga, meditation, like doing nice things for yourself. And then you just like that one thing, the shame, that piece is like draining the whole vibe, right? And so it's like the lowest common denominator is actually where you need to focus on, right? So it's like if you have the shame or anything, right? I had that a lot. Even when I was a kid, I was always ashamed of my situation because my parents were addicted to drugs and my mom had schizophrenia. So I mean, there was like just tremendous amount of things to be ashamed of. And then also, they didn't have any money. So we were like on welfare. So it was like so many layers of shame. And then when my mom died, well, even before my mom died, but like when we got put to foster homes and stuff, like I had so much grief, the grief of loss of my family, right? And then so it just kept compounding. There was like numerous things. It wasn't just like this one thing. Most of the time it's that way. Like if we had something in our life, in our childhood, and then what I learned after years and years, literally like decades of this work, was actually that some of this was coming from ancestral karma, I'll call it, ancestral trauma, which was, okay, where did this even start? That's where I came to after like a long time of doing this inner healing. Was I was like, how did this even become a part of my story to begin with? Like I used to blame myself and be like, in the yoga tradition, we have this idea of karma. So I used to think I must have done something horrible in a past life to deserve all of this terrible karma. Then I used to beat myself up, and then I had guilt because I was like, oh, I must have been like this horrible thing. I didn't know what I have done in a past life, but I just assumed based on this idea of karma that I did something bad. So then I had this guilt, and then I was like making it worse. So the point is that when I finally kind of got to this self-forgiveness, and I was like, okay, I don't know what I did, but I forgive that. You know, obviously, whatever we did in the past, we can't go back. But what we can do, forgiveness is the like kind of the door that starts to unlock these higher vibrations, and then gratitude. So we'll go back to the thing again. So this chart, you can see when you get up here to courage, willingness, neutrality, acceptance. So forgiveness is literally like basically between acceptance and love. It's right in between. It's not the highest vibration, but it's kind of the bridge that brings you into the higher vibration. So forgiveness, in fact, we have an expert that I'm going to be getting him to come on one of these weeks as well, Dr. Luskin from Stanford, and he is the leading expert in forgiveness in the entire world. And he has written more books about forgiveness than anybody else. And he also started doing yoga when he was 18, and he started, he's just such a great guy. I think he's like in his 60s at this point. But anyway, he was the co-founder of the Stanford Happiness Hall of Fame that I was inducted. So that's how I met him. But I'm just like so inspired by him because he dedicated his entire life to teaching forgiveness. And he also shared that forgiveness, compassion, and forgiveness, compassion, and maybe gratitude. So it's like forgiveness, compassion, and gratitude. It's like a trifecta, right? So anyway, we'll bring him on in the future. The reason I'm talking about all this is so that you can understand that like in your energy and in whatever's going on in your physical levels, like it's all interconnected, right? So today, Flora is going to be really focusing in on the physical level and the body and the parts of the body. And I want to really emphasize that in the book, The Anatomy of Yoga, there is like in the beginning, there's like several chapters before it even gets into all that, that talks about these other aspects of prana and like the way that energy moves up and down, for example, prana and apana. And so we have like this science of understanding of the workings of energy and how through our physical body, we can transmute and clear this energy as well from these other layers. And the Anatomy of Yoga book actually goes into that quite extensively. And it talks about, and then it shows the other part that I really want to emphasize today, which is alignment. So when I talk about alignment, I was talking about many kinds of alignment. So there's like spiritual alignment means that you are like your actions, your words, and your thoughts are aligned with your highest self, which is God. We'll just say your highest self is God consciousness. The goddess within is the part of us that knows the best thing to do at all times. And if we can align with that guidance, that's one of the aspects that I really think of called flow state. So when we align with that guidance, we are in alignment. Well, when we take that into the physical practice and we look at alignment of the physical spine, they even say that the spine is called the staff of God. So the staff of God, and then you have the top bone of your spine, which is called the atlas, but the other word for it is the mouth of God. So you have the mouth of God and you have the staff of God inside of your body. So these two aspects, this is super important about alignment. That's why we always put so much emphasis on posture in yoga, because you are, through your physical posture, through the way that you sit, through like aligning your spine, and then even with the practices that we teach, you are aligning everything. So when I had scoliosis, when I was 18, I got hit by a car. The car was going 45 miles per hour. It hit me while I was riding my bike, T-boned me. I got thrown off the bike and I almost died. Actually, I think I did die for like a minute. And I remember seeing my body from above, and I was on the concrete. And I was like, they were cutting my clothes off of me so they could put the neck brace and take me in the ambulance. And I just remember watching that experience. And then later, I was too stubborn to like, I don't know, like go and get help. So I just like, it got really bad. I ended up getting scoliosis. My spine became crooked from that because the way that the car hit me, it made my one hip higher and it made one shoulder higher. I didn't know because I was like so clueless and lack of awareness about my own physical body. But later I actually stood on one of those scales, and they have these scales where it's like one scale on one side, the other one on the other. So you put a foot on either side and it will tell you if you're putting more weight on one side than the other. So I did that, and I saw I was putting 10 pounds more weight on one side, which means that my spine was so out of balance that I was literally like leaning to one side a lot. That's a lot, 10 pounds. So I'm only 100 pounds. That's like 10%. So I was like, so I always wondered, why did my right thigh is like 1 inch bigger around? And like, why is my right foot bigger? And the reason is because the body starts to adapt when we're out of balance to try to compensate. So then my right foot grew a half a size more. My right thigh was bigger. Like everything was like out of balance. And then my right hip was considerably tighter. And so as I started working with yoga, I was amazed about the miracles that were available as you start to work with this imbalances in your body, you can bring them back into balance. And then over time, I was able to completely heal my scoliosis, which is something that people always say that is impossible. A lot of doctors say, oh, you can't heal scoliosis, which is absolutely not true. And scoliosis is just that the spine is not in the right alignment. And so when I look at the spiritual message of that the staff of God within me was out of alignment. So if you can kind of like understand what that message might be from my soul, is that I was out of alignment with God and I was out of alignment with my highest self. So I need to heal that. And by healing that, then my spirituality developed and blossomed in a much bigger way. Like you can't actually become your highest self version if your body is all messed up. So that's why the physical practice is so important. And I remember meeting this older man one time I was speaking at a conference about yoga, and this guy, he's a spiritual guy, and he came up to me, he was like 80, I don't know, maybe he was like 70 or something, but he was like, yeah, because he knew I was a yoga teacher. And he's like, I used to focus a lot on the physical poses, but I transcended that. I just kind of meditate now, and I don't need the yoga poses. And I was like, well, how's your body doing? Because I looked at him, he was like overweight, like he was like hunching over, like he did not look good. I mean, it's different if he was like looking great, but he wasn't. He was just like a mess, and he was overweight with a big belly and obviously like not in a good shape. And he was, in his mind, and this has happened a lot in spiritual people, some spiritual people think that you get to a point where you just transcend your body and you don't need to focus on it at all, and that, you know, just meditate your way to bliss. But it's actually not how that works. In the physical realm that we live in this world, everything is physical and spiritual. So your body is spiritual and you need to take care of it. The way I look at it, even in Journey to Joyful, the way I speak about it is that your body is a temple. If you have a temple, you need to clean the temple. You need to make sure the temple walls are good. Like you have to take care of your physical body. It's crucial. It is the temple of your soul. And today we're going to bring Flor on now, and she's going to go through how you can really structure the temple of your soul in a way that it serves you on every level. Because when you have that strong foundation of the physical body, it helps every other aspect of your life. And one thing that I've always seen, the people that are the most successful in life are fit, are healthy. Their body is in good shape. And the people that maybe they are billionaire, but they're like not happy at all, many times, there's different reasons for that, but many times it's also because they've let their physical health go. So these two are interconnected and they're inseparable. Like you cannot ever I would just always encourage you to focus on your physical health and then also the other layers, because it all goes hand in hand, and you're gonna feel like $1,000,000 when you're 100 years old and you can do all of these amazing things with your body and you feel good in your body and your temple is like beautiful, versus like being that old guy that came up to me being like, I came to a point where I didn't need to think of my body anymore. Yeah, well, your body will not appreciate that. So treat your temple with respect, and every day of your life, even if you only do 10 minutes of yoga postures, it can do wonders for your physical health. And I'm a strong advocate for physical fitness and health. And even in Flow State Institute, we also do other things besides yoga postures, right? We do like dancing, and there's like qigong practices and tai chi, and there's a lot of different ways of moving the body in physical ways that is kind of more feminine, more graceful, perhaps. And even in the yoga postures, you can do them in a flow, in a feminine and a beautiful, graceful way, or you can do them more as a warrior. So there's different energies that you can bring forth through the physical practice, and that empowers your mind, your emotions, and your spirit too. So like as you get more empowered in your physical, it actually ripples out to all those layers, and then you become a more dynamic, more empowered, strong, and beautiful soul walking this earth in a physical body. Okay, so we're going to bring Flor on. Let's see if she wants to unmute.
Yes, I want to unmute. I
Hi,
think it's
thank
easiest.
you for being here. I did kind of a little introduce you, but I'll introduce you a little bit more. I'll just say, so Flor is a amazing teacher, and when she came to my training, it was obvious that she is a leader, and we brought her up to the front, and she was teaching the first time. With even when she was just doing her training, we had her already teaching. And I feel that I always want to give people a lot of encouragement to be the leader that's already inherent within. And she has this really unique skills, very ingenious intelligence of how to explain things, and especially because of her background in the physical therapy, and then bridging that and combining that with the intelligence and the energy of the spiritual levels and all the different things with flow state yoga. So I'm super excited for your workshop today, and I'm just gonna pass it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dashma, for the whole education and giving me this chance to share this with everyone. And I did prepare like the yoga class for today, and it will be all about anatomy. And I hope I will structure it well for you all. So I did write things down for myself to keep the structure. And yeah, as you introduced, I have my background in physiotherapy and in geriatrical physiotherapy and revalidation science. So, and I see now that while I have my yoga studio here in the Netherlands, that it helps me a lot, because if you know what the body does, then you will understand why the poses have to be done certain ways. So this is the thing I want to, yeah, bring forward today, so everyone can understand it well. So I will start with the basic of the body, and that is that everything is living. It are living structures, and it is fed in different ways. And I think we all know that muscles, well, they're bloody, and this is fed with a lot of blood, but they only can grow with movement. As you introduced with your story, if you use one side more than the other, then the muscles on one side will grow faster than the other side. So muscles, we all know, if we use them, then they will grow. If we don't use them, they won't. But not so many people know as well that the bones, they grow as well. If we don't use them, like elderly people and women with osteoporosis, if they don't use them, they will not, yeah, grow that fast anymore. So then you can have like spontaneous fractures. And if the spontaneous fractures are there, well, then we, of course, have a problem. So how can we help the bones to still grow? Well, it's by compression. If we compress the bones, then, for example, if we walk stairs, then you will have decompression, and that helps to help the bone grow. But also, if we tear on the bones, and we actually do that with every movement we make. If we contract a muscle, then we tear on the bones as well, and that's why everything we have from bony structures, the protrusions we can feel in our body, like here on the knee, you can feel like, okay, there's like a big bubble. Well, that's because there are muscles on there, and the muscles, they just don't come on there spontaneously. They're on there with the tendons, and so the tendons, they are wide from structure, so those are not really fed by blood, but they are actually yeah, the if we have a ligament or a tendon that is hurt, then it won't heal that easy. So we have to take care of that. And between our different bones, well, actually all the bony structures you feel like in the wrist or your elbows, actually the only reason why there's like a protrusion is just because there's a tendon tearing on it. So if we don't use that a lot, it will grow smaller. If we do use it a lot, then you can see that it's like really prone. So then we know there's a problem. Between the bones, we still have another structure, And that's the articular cartilage. And that makes sure that that the joints can glide very easily. And that is fed by compression and decompression. And for example, if people are older and they have arthrosis, then the articular cartilage isn't that well anymore. So those are those people in your yoga class that will tell you like, but if I move my joint, it's like I'm walking on snow. So that feeling of walking on snow and it doesn't move that easily anymore, then you know they probably have arthrosis. So we have to move carefully with them. And also if we do yin yoga, for example, then the cartilage is pressed out a lot. And you can feel afterwards that it will be more difficult to move, that you have to go slowly out of your movement, move those joints little by little, and then go forward again, because the cartilage is pressed out. And to get more fluid again, it needs that decompression. So the only way the cartilage is fed is by compression, decompression. It's like a sponge you would put into water. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. But if you press it out and you let it suck the fluid in again, then you have like the transmission from the fluid in the sponge and the water in the bucket. So that's how the cartilage works as well. So we have those layers from the muscles, the bones, the tendons, and then around us all, you have the joint, the capsules of the joint. This is also not that bloody, so it's also not that easy to heal, but it can heal, absolutely. And around that all, we have bigger groups, which the fascia holds together. So we have many fascia layers, and we know actually more and more that the fascia is pretty important, and also many times connected with all the meridians we are having in the more spiritual layers, but we can see them back in our body as well. So the physical practice of yoga is all about movement, contraction, relaxation, compression, elongation. It activates the meridians. It can activate different chakras, and it's influencing like our whole body. It's influencing our body structures, but also our intestinals, which influence our mind. So we know for sure that the spiritual part of yoga is important, like the meditation is important, but as Rashma mentioned earlier, the physical practice is important as well. So that's the first part, like everything in your body is living structure, also the bones, also the fascia. So take care of everything. Now, the second pretty obvious thing is that muscles move your bones, but maybe less obvious. Well, if you think about it, it's obvious, but you probably won't think about it right away, is that gravity is moving your muscles as well. So the bones are moved by your muscles, but it's also moved by the gravity. So depending on the pose, the gravity works on your bones, or the muscles are, or they both are. So depending on how we are in the world, depends on how the gravity is. So for example, I think many people are sitting down right now. So if you just would go, and if you sit, just make sure first that you sit straight. And now just come a little bit to the front. And if you bring your body to the front, gravity works on your trunk in a different way. So if you go back to the middle and you come back to the front again, you can feel that the muscles on your back, they're contracting more if you come to the front. And if you go more to the back, you can feel that your belly is contracting a lot. So the bones, they are moved by muscles, but also by gravity. So always think about that. And so we cannot really say what a muscle will always do, because sometimes, depending on how we get the pose, and I will get to that point later as well, it will get more clear. A muscle can make sure that the contraction helps. For example, if we look at the shoulder, if I contract a muscle, I can alleviate my shoulder. But if I would be like sideways and I contract this muscle, I would lift my hip, but it would my head, but it would be with the same muscle. So depending on how gravity gets the grip, it moves like my shoulder up, or it moves my head up. And as we have the gravity, we also have the ground reaction force, and that helps our body as well. That's the part you can relate to if they say you in a yoga class, like, put your hands on the floor, feel how your hands are on the floor, and feel how the ground is pushing back against your hands. So we need all those different parts to make sure that we can correct our body and keep it in certain asanas. So if we have the muscles and we know that they have different movements, we have different contraction options for the muscles. And you can see that in your anatomy book, Dashma referred to earlier, on page 30, and I will try to screen share. If you, yeah, wait, if we go to page 30, I guess it has to be here. On the right side below, you can see four ways that muscle can contract. So they can contract concentrically. So that means if you look at my arm, if I want to, if a muscle shortens, then it contracts as well. That's concentric. So the muscle is in action and the joint is moving up or down. Anyway, the muscle shortens while it's in action. And then the eccentric way is that the muscle contracts, but it lengthens at the same time. So because you probably cannot see me, wait. Yeah, now you can see me better. So the concentric is, if we look at the biceps, I use the biceps, it's an action, and I shorten the muscle. That's why my elbow can bend. So that's concentrically. But if now I let my hand down slowly, this biceps is working quite hard. Well, not that hard because I don't have weight on it, but the biceps is working against gravity, but it's elongating. So that's eccentrically. If I would hold my arm like the same position, that's isometrically. So I stay in the same pose. That's what we do quite often with asanas. If we stay longer in one pose, first to go to one pose, to the asana, we use our muscles concentrically and eccentrically. But then if we are there, we use them isometrically. So the joint stays the same. And then the last you can see on that page 30 is the isotonic. And the isotonic is like that you keep it all the you try to keep the same force in your muscle, but it's moving anyway. So another way you can feel this quite well is if you would go and stand up. So just join me and stand up. I will take a chair. So you stand. If you stand now, you used your quadriceps. If you go down, let me see, I don't do this, okay. If you now bend through your legs, you would go to chair pose, right? But you don't go to sit on your chair right away. You stay here. So this is isometrically. You stay here. And now if you would try to just lift one leg, you can see that actually we can do all different things with our body. My quadriceps is working here. Well, actually only the rectus femoris is working. And the iliacus is also working if I want to lift my leg. And probably the rectus femoris doesn't say you that much, and the musculus iliacus that doesn't say you that much. But if I would say like the iliopsoas, many people, they know the iliopsoas muscle, but they don't always know that they couple up together with the musculus iliacus. So that's the third point I want to point out, that some muscles, they couple up with another. So for example, if you look to the iliacus muscle, it's like from the ilium, let me see. It's like from the inside of your pelvis towards here. But if we would look to the psoas muscle, it's from the back, inside of your back towards there. And that's pretty important to know where the muscles run, because it helps you to imagine what it can do with a joint. For example, if I want to bend my hip, then I pull my leg up. Remember, we were here standing. We were bending our knees. Here, my muscles are working. My quadriceps muscle is working very hard. Then if I want to pull up my leg, then the rectus femoris is working and the iliacus is working to pull it up. But now if I would stretch my leg, then the quadriceps, the other muscles of the quadriceps are working again. And that's pretty important to know. Some muscles, they run over one joint. So those are called the monoarticular muscles. Some run over two joints. So the biarticular, like the rectus femoris, he's running over two. He starts at your hip and goes down. But the rest of the quadriceps is staying here, comes from the lateral part, comes here, the intermediate part comes there, and the medial part comes there. So those actually, the rest of the quadriceps muscles are just for extending and bending your leg, for extending your leg. So if we go back to the different types of contraction, then this would be again concentric for my quadriceps, and this would be eccentric for my quadriceps. And if I would pull it back, like towards here, then I'm actually concentric for my hamstrings. Those are at the back. And if I go slowly down, then this would be eccentric for the hamstrings. If I keep it over there, it would be just the isometrical. If somebody would pull my heel down, then I would be, then I probably would do it isotonically, because my foot would probably go down, and most of the time it would be eccentric as well. So I hope you get a little bit of knowledge of how those muscles work. And it's useful to know that as you see with my leg, that most of the muscles, they work in couples. They have one in the front and one on the back. And if one is contracting in the front, most of the time it helps. The body is so wise, and it helps each other by relaxing the one in the back. But we don't always do that. And we don't always have to do that. But sometimes, for example, if you're doing a really difficult pose, we are like clawing our teeth together. Well, probably it doesn't have to do anything with the face, what we are doing in the pose. But anyway, we would contract other muscles while doing a pose. So it's useful to know for each pose, and that's why it's so good that Dashma advised the yoga anatomy book, to know and to really see like, okay, one muscles should be contracted, one muscles should be relaxed, and what of the muscles are like working concentrically, eccentrically to go there. And if everything is tied up in the body, then you won't be in any equilibrium anymore. You don't have the balance. So everything is a living structure. Muscles move the bones, but the gravity moves the bones as well. And that by the gravity, it depends on how the muscles are contracting. So we had 4 different types of contracts. So we have concentric, eccentric, isometrical, and isotonical. Muscles can run over one joint, 2 joints, or even multiple joints. Like if we look to our back, most of the back muscles, they run over multiple joints. If we are going to downward facing dog, and I hope you still can see me here, and we look to the hamstrings, which are running from here under our knee towards there on my pelvis, then you can see that when I would want to lift my pelvis up, it elongates my hamstrings. And then if many people go down right away with their heels, I will exaggerate, but then the pelvis will round again. And actually we don't want that. We want the elongation of the back. So we have to keep our knees bent just because the hamstrings are a biarticular muscle. So if you think, oh, why do I have to know all those muscles? Is it that important? Well, I'm a physiotherapist, so of course I find it pretty important, but it's useful to know for your yoga poses, because if you know if it runs over more groups, then you will be able to adjust it better. And if I go back to that downward facing dog, you could see that not only do the hamstrings attach from the pelvis towards under the knee, so this is where they run, so they have the knee joint and they have the hip joint. But as I am there, you also can see that it doesn't just affect my hip, it also affects my back. Because if my pelvis is not right and it's tilted backwards, my back is rounding. And in a down dog, we want it more flat. So that's the 5th point, actually. If we bring everything together, you can see that one muscle group can influence the joint it's running over, but it also can influence the other joints, and not only the ones that are running over. And I think if you go to the book on page 34, 34, and I will bring it over for you as well. Yes. Then you can see the right side. Yeah. Then you can see at the right side, you can see the mountain pose. And if we go to the hamstrings again and the iliopsoas, so those are actually working together. They're working together to shift the pelvis. And if you go there, wait. because you cannot see me. So I will screen share this again then. So if we go to the pelvis again and to the hamstrings, if they would be shortened, I would stand with my knees bent because the hamstrings do run over both. And if I want to stretch my legs, I would go back with my back because those are pulling my pelvis down. So I would be here. But with many people with iliopsoas, the shortening of the iliopsoas, because they are sitting a lot, the iliopsoas muscle is running there. And if you sit a lot, then it doesn't have to stretch, so it can be there all day. They would stand a little bit like this, and I actually exaggerate, but then they would be like with a hollow back and the hips in more flexion. So that will influence again your spine. And that's what we can see on the other page I will go to again. That a neutral spine, she's showing that good over there. A neutral spine has a curve in the back, which is called a lordose. It's like the curve going to the front. Then you have the kyphose. It's more going there. I hope this goes well for you guys. So here you have the lordose. Then the kyphose would be a little bit more here. Her arm is before the kyphose, but you can imagine that this is a little bit more up. And then here you have the lordose. And I guess in the anatomy book, there's a better picture of it. And it would be on page, let me see. Here you have it. So here you can see on the lumbar spine, you have this lordose. Sacral spine, it's the kyphose. The same you see at the thoracic spine. It's like going out. So the belly would be here, would be at the left side. And the cervical spine is again hollow. If we go towards page 27, then you can see here and the left below, they show the pelvis, how it's moving. So it's actually, if we are talking about movements of the pelvis, we always look to the above part, not to the lower part. We always look to the part above. So you say here at the right picture that the pelvis is tilting forward. So the upper part is tilting forward, or antero oppositie. And at the left side, the pelvis is tilting backwards. So for the pelvis movements, you always look to the upper part. And what they show here quite well is you have the neutral spine. But if we ask people to really elongate their spine, which can be good, but if they do it too much, then the curves will get lost. And we need those curves in our back because those curves make sure that our spine is more, it's more robust. Because of the extra curves, we have a better spine, which can carry more load. If we go to the left, to the right side, you can see that the curves are actually a little bit too big. And then at a certain point, then there will be too much compression. And then all the discs in between, they will have a very heavy time. And that's when you can have a hernia. Sometimes it's because we are just sitting too low. Or sometimes people, they try to, and I don't have a picture of that, so I will show it myself. So some people, they tend to sit this way. You will recognize it immediately. This would be normal, like a lumbar curve, lower, a little bit there. And if you look to my neck, then there's a cervical curve over here as well. But many people would sit like this. So pelvis, if we look to the pelvis, we always talk about the upper part, pelvis tilted backwards. That influences the back, like the lumbar curve is gone. So there we don't have the protection for our discs anymore. My curve, kyphotic curve, well, that's pretty big. And then to compensate, many people go like this. So if you would see it like this, so that way. If you just join me in for sitting straight and then turn your head just towards the left and towards the right, and you can feel the movement you can make with your head and the freedom you have. And if you now go and sit like this, and you try to move your head again, then you can feel that there's a lot of restriction going on. So in the neutral curve, you have the freedom. We have the freedom with our neck. We also have more freedom with our spine. And in the just slumpy way of sitting, you don't really have any good rotation possibility. You see, if I am here, I can turn. If I'm here, this would be it. So keep in mind this, this best neutral spine pose, because it protects your body. And the spine doesn't really like if we combine all the poses together. Like if we go to here, if we go towards flexion of the spine, maybe lateral flexion of the spine, and then turn again, then there's a really compression of the discs in between the vertebrae. So we want to avoid that because we want to keep a healthy spine, as we know that, well, the spine is also the staff of God. So we want to keep that open for the physical part, but also for the spiritual part. So the neutral spine, that's pretty important to keep that. And if we go back to where we were in Tadasana, we have it here. Then Tadasana is actually, almost like the neutral anatomic posture. So for the anatomic posture, you would have the hands, the palm of the hands facing forward. Tadasana is like sideways. But for the rest, this is the neutral anatomic posture. And all the movements we will make and describe will be out from this posture. And there's one thing that's not in the anatomy book, and I think it's easy to understand it better if you would have this. And Dashma, I will give it to you, so you can share it with other people as well. But these are the anatomical planes. And this describes as well how we will do the movements in the body. And I will make it bigger so you can see it well. So you can see the different planes, how we will move from this anatomical posture. So you can see this is almost mountain pose. You see, just the hands are faced differently, but for the rest, this looks like mountain pose. So everything from joint movements we will make is accordingly to this posture. And you can see, first we will look to the planes. So first, try to focus on the orange squares. So you have the frontal plane. It's like, think of the word just being in front of somebody. So that's the frontal plane. Then we have the sagittal plane. That's if you would, just cut somebody in half, then you have the sagittal plane. Sometimes if it's right in the middle, they also call it a medial plane. But if you just remember sagittal plane, that's fine. And then you have the transversal plane. So if you cut somebody in the middle, in the other way, then you have the transversal plane. And the next pictures will help you to understand how the movements are done in the axis, because you can see here as well the different axes. So in the frontal plane, you could move sideways with your hands. Wait, I would go first to this. So we are looking at the frontal plane, and pretty much all movements we can do in the frontal plane are around the sagittal axis. And depending on which joint we are in, we are here at the shoulder joint, and then we are describing the movement from the neutral position where you still see the picture. And then if you're moving up, so this would be a contraction of the deltoideus, which is here, the shoulder muscle. If you move it up in the frontal plane around the sagittal axis, then that would be abduction. So you're going away from your body. If you would go down, it would be adduction. So you're adding it back to your body. That's a little bit how you can remember it. The same is actually at the hip. It's called just the same. If you go away from your body from that neutral anatomical position, it's abduction. If you go back towards your body, you're adducting. So you add it back to your body. If we go to the hands, like waving hands, that's how you can see this radial deviation a little bit, and the ulnar deviation. It's like if you would wave your hands, that's the movement you can think about. And then the feet are the inversion and eversion. So the inversion would be if you would lift the inside of your foot up, and the eversion would be if you would lift the outside of your foot off the ground. Still in the frontal plane, you can move your body sideways. So that would be lateral flexion. So you go to the side, lateral. And with your head, we also call it like lateral flexion with the head. If we go along, so we go to the next plane. So the frontal plane, that's the easiest to understand because we can face people and it's easier to understand. But if we look at the side of persons, then we are here in the sagittal plane. And in the sagittal plane, I will make it a bit bigger again. You can flex your elbow, like going to the front. So this would be a contraction of a concentric contraction of your biceps, probably, depending on how your hand would be. And if you go back down, it would be an eccentric contraction from your biceps to bring this arm back again downwards. But if you would lay down on your belly, and let me show. If I would, like this would be concentric for my biceps. This would be eccentric. But if I would be here and my arm is there, if I want to elongate my arm back, like back here, it would be the same position. But if I have it bent and I want to bring it to neutral, I have to do a concentric muscle contraction of my triceps. So remember that depending how the gravity is working on your body, different muscles have to move differently. Okay, we go back to... Yes, here we are. So we are still in the sagittal plane. So we had this flexion and extension of the elbow. The same can happen with the shoulder, also called flexion if you bring the joint up, and extension if you bring it down. The same names are given in the hip. So also flexion if you bring it forward, extension if you bring it back. And you can see here that, well, they go to hyperextension with the hip. So normally the hip would be here. They go to hyperextension. This can go to 30 degrees for normal people. But if you do a lot of yoga, you can see that many people can go further. And sometimes some persons are do have hypermobility, then they could go further. So the knee is also called just flexion if you make the joint smaller. If you make the angle over here, you make it smaller, it's called flexion. And to bring it back again, extension. The trunk, the same. So actually in the sagittal plane, you all can call it like flexion, extension, flexion, extension. And just for the foot, we call it dorsal flexion. So you're going up, and plantar flexion, like the lower part of your foot, it's a plantaris. It's like the lower part. That's why it's called plantar flexion. So this is for that, for the sagittal plane. So we had the movements in, let me see how I can get out of it again. Yes, oh, yes. So this is if we go back towards here. So we had the frontal plane with movements around the sagittal axis. We just had the sagittal plane with movements around the frontal axis. And then the last one we have is the transversal plane with movements around the vertical axis. And this is the one. So you can see here that there's a vertical X drawn. And this is the external rotation from the hip they're showing here. You cannot really do an external rotation of your knee. Well, you can, but it's very small and not that useful for your knee joint. So what's described here is the external rotation from the hip and the internal rotation from the hip. Sometimes for the hip, it's easier to see if you have it. I will come further away. So the hip, this would be internal rotation. So it's a tricky one, you know, because the foot is going out. So you would think like it has to go external because my foot is going to the side. But it's internal because we look to the hip, what happens to the hip. So here, if I would place my finger over here, you see that my finger is going inwards. So this is internal rotation, and this is external rotation. So here the hip is like completely external rotated. So internal rotation from the hip, external rotation from the hip. Shoulder, the same. This would be external rotation. This would be internal rotation. So external, internal. I will bring you back to the overview because that's probably easier. So you have here with the shoulder, I did show you already the external rotation and the internal rotation. As you remember from the frontal plane, you had that abduction, like the arm is going away from the body, and the adduction, like the arm is added again to the body. You have this also in the horizontal plane. So, but then it's called the horizontal abduction. So the arm is going away from your body or going away from the neutral anatomical posture, and the horizontal abduction. So it's going to the middle line from your body again. The supination and pronation, I will show that in person again. Here you still see the rotation of your head. Well, that we did earlier, like you remember, sitting up straight, rotating your head, so your nose stays in the same plane. So that's it in the transversal plane. And then rotation of your trunk. I will show the pronation and supination. So this is the supine posture of your hand. You can think about it like you can place a cup of soup on it, like it's the supination, and this is the pronation. And also, if we would go to postures, if you look in the book, you can see an overview where they say prone poses. And the prone poses are the poses on the belly. So think about it. Palm of your hand is up. You can place a cup of soup on it. So supination, and palm of your hand is down, pronation. And so postures we would do on the belly are also prone postures. I think it's somewhere in the beginning from the book that they describe like how the chapters are built up, and there they describe, I can probably show it. Here. Let me see. You see the prone poses? Those are the poses on your belly. The supine poses, those are the poses on your back. So this is also where you can remember. But I will ask Dashma to send you the link from the different planes, because that helps a lot in understanding how the joints are moving and what degrees you have to think about that a joint is in, because all the movements are just thought about. This is our neutral position. So the neutral position is pretty much the mountain pose. And then how does your joint move from this? So if my arms are sideways, here my arm would be in abduction, 45 degrees. Here it would be a 90 degrees. And here it would be like 180 degrees abduction. So if I add it back, this would go adduction. So you add it back to your body. And as we are at the shoulder, it's useful to know that muscles can co-contract. This can help your body, but it can also influence your body in a negative way. We see a lot of people going here with their shoulders. If they're there with their shoulders, we have a short neck, so they cannot really move easily. Probably if we would ask to go sideways, like lateral flexion in the frontal plane from the head, they probably would go there with the shoulder going up because the muscles are too tight. But also if we are here higher with our shoulders than we should be, and we want to do abduction, you can see that my shoulder is already higher. And then I want to go up. You saw earlier, I don't have a problem with my shoulder. I could go higher, but no, I can't, because my shoulder was already up. A normal position would be to go first low with your shoulder, go to the 90 degrees of abduction, and then, and I will show it from back as well, we take the arm all the way up. So if you look to my scapula, first part, I lift my arm here, but the scapula doesn't move yet. So here, the co-contraction is good. I do co-contraction from my latissimus dorsi and the trapezius. So this is contracted. I go up with my arm, and from this point, my scapula, who is here, can move up completely. You can see scapula, the spine is here, and it goes back. So many times, if people say they cannot really move their shoulders, it's because they start here or they start there. So they use the scapula already. I will show it from the back. They use it here already to go up. And then they don't have the space anymore to go higher. And then they compensate by doing the lateral flexion of the spine. So many times if you want people to lift the arm up, I would suggest that you say, go low with your hand, reach down, reach to the side. So they stay here, scapula staying low, and then they go up, and then the last part, the scapula moves up again. So that can help people with shoulder issues. And if you, let me see. So the co-contraction can help you or it can limit you. Another pose that it's pretty understandable, I think, to use the co-contraction is the warrior one. So I didn't tell if people could interrupt me or not, but if you do have a question that it's that is useful to know and that is holding you back to understand the rest of the story, just tell me and interrupt, or otherwise you can ask questions afterwards. I want to go back to the anatomy book. And then let me see. Yes. Here we have warrior one pose. So if we are still thinking about co-contractions of muscles, then here you can see a nice couple that is co-contracting a lot. The quadriceps together with the hamstrings. So the quadriceps are on top. They're making sure that the knee doesn't bend too much. The hamstrings are co-contracting also to keep this knee above the ankle. And many times in my classes, I see people who have the knee just before even before their toes. So then the foot would be somewhere here. And why I don't like that is not only because this is not how the pose is described, but also because it gives a lot of stress on the knee joint. If the knee joint is in more flexion, it has to work pretty hard to keep it over there. So then the quadriceps should have, they must work harder. The hamstrings don't have to work that hard, but the joint, the knee joint, and I told you before about the articular cartilage, it will be pressed out much more than if you stay with the knee just above the ankle. So make sure that you use this. If we go again to the degrees, the angle here in the knee, then this angle would be the angle we will describe. So it has to be 90 degrees or more. So this is 90 degrees or more. If we go to the hip, so this would be the plane we look from. So the hip here would be in 45 degrees extension. I will try to give you a delay so you can think about it yourself, how much degrees it would be. So if we look to the arms here, we are looking in the frontal plane. Try to think how many degrees the arms would be lifted. So lifted away from the body. So it would be called abduction. So it would be more or less, this would be 90. So this would be 110 probably. If we would measure it as a physiotherapist, we would take the X would be here in the shoulder joint. And then we would take measure from here. Okay. If we look to the hands, they're pretty much neutral. They're maybe a little bit in supination, but pretty much neutral. The knee over here would be completely extended. The foot in front, this would be a neutral position. If you look at from the neutral anatomical pose, this would be neutral, so 0 degrees. But over here, the foot in the back, this has a flexion. And there would be a flexion of, let me see. Probably we have the left, there probably would be a flexion of 30 degrees, something like that. So this is the warrior two. You see here the contraction from the co-contraction from this quadriceps and the hamstrings. At the same time, there's a contraction of the big gluteal muscle. And there must be a relaxation from the muscles here in the hip. So your iliopsoas, you can see here, they describe the psoas major. So this is the one running over here. They don't describe the iliacus, but that is working as well. Well, it's elongating, so it's not working, but it's elongating. They do describe here the rectus femoris. You remember the one who is like combining two joints. The rectus femoris is running over your hip and is going over your knee. So this one will influence both joints, the hip and the knee. While the other parts from this quadriceps, the vastus lateralis, they describe the medialis, the intermedius is also there, but they don't describe it. Those are working in the knee. And if we go to the next page, then you sometimes see in the anatomy book, you see those pictures as well. And why are they important? Most of the time, if we go away from the axis, like if I go back here, if the arms are closer to the body, it will be easier for the body to hold it over there. If they are more far away from the body, it will be more difficult for the deltoideus to hold the arm over there. It's like, I don't know. I forgot the proper word in English, but anyway, it's a lever. So it's harder if the arm is further away, if your hand would be further away. But if we look towards the plane we're standing on, our standing base, then it will be easier if you would be farther away from your standing base. If your legs are wider, your standing base is bigger. So if you go a little bit to the left and the right and your balance is not that well, you can go pretty wide till you go out of your balance because your base of support is wider. If your legs would be closer to each other, which is in one line, if you are in the warrior two pose, this would be more, it would be more difficult for your balance, because here your feet are in one line. So your total base of support, which they show in blue, is smaller. If we go back towards here, you see your total base of support. You actually can make the square bigger, because the total base of support is going from the foot in front, down, to the side, and up. So this base of support is much bigger for the warrior one. So warrior one is easier if you would place the feet wider. And if you would place them not that far away, like if you instruct the people to go to the warrior one, you would say like, bring your back foot back, like a lot to the back. But if they go more to the back, it will be more difficult. And if they stay closer, it will be easier. If they go wider with their legs, it will be easier. If they make it smaller, it will be more difficult. And if we go to the, they don't show it in blue, but if we go here to warrior 3, you can see that in warrior 3, the base of support, it's the smallest. So that's why warrior 3 is so difficult, because then you just have one foot. This is your base of support. So if your balance is not that well, you will feel it a lot. Good. While we are in warrior 3, we can look here again at the positions. So we have here the foot, we have a neutral. The knee is a neutral as well. On both legs, foot and knee are neutral. The hip, the back hip, it's a neutral. Actually, this whole body is in neutral. Even the head is a neutral. But remember that depending on how gravity grips on the body, different muscles will have to work. So the pivotal point is here in the hip joint of the standing leg. As the arms go further away, the foot has to go up also. So this is like, it's like on the playground. Is it called a whip wop? Wait, it's like the thing going up and down with one child here, one child there. I wasn't on the playground with children. So one child would be here, one would be there. And when would they be in balance? If they weighed the same. So to keep the body in balance, everything needs first mobility, but also co-contraction. So remember, the agonist, the antagonist, you see here that the back is contracting, but the belly muscles are also working. You see here that the hamstring muscles are working, but and the gluteus maximus is working much. But you will feel that actually the quadriceps is working also. So remember that the muscles work in couples as well. And they do, well, yes. So the muscles are working in couples, and they actually always help each other. They help each other to keep the joint just in place. But they also help, well, if I want to extend my arm or lift my arm to abduction, then the muscles here, over here, they won't contract. But if I hold my arm, you can see they will contract. So the body is helping each other all the way, all the time. So if you bring people, if you bring your yogis to an asana, always instruct them on a wise way, like elongate your spine. Try to bring your heels to the back, even if they cannot move the heels to the back anymore. But if they think about bringing the heels to the back and help the help the heel to go down, then the antagonist will relax. So it will help the body. And most of the time we have in the body, the agonist and the antagonist are in the back and the front. And I will list you up like the biggest ones. If you look at your feet, I will bring my feet up. Okay, if I lift my foot, this would be the tibialis anterior. It's in the front. At the same time, if I'm doing that, my soleus and my gastrocnemius, like the calves, they would relax. Because if they don't relax, I cannot move my foot, or I have to do it very forcefully. But now I just can move it. Just by contracting here, the body knows I have to relax this. But if you don't want that to relax, then you have to instruct your yogis, like try to keep your joint in the same place. If we look at the hip, we have the hamstrings we already had, the quadriceps, like those work together as well. You can feel if you keep one hand on top of your leg, one below, you will feel if you stretch your leg, this will contract. If you bend it more deeply under your chair, or if you're standing, you can feel it contracting over here, but relaxing over there. So they work together. The hip abductors as well. If you go to the side with your hip, like I will contract over here, because if you don't contract the latissimus, or if you don't the fascia, or you don't contract your glutes, I would go here. You see, the gravity grips my body. So if I stand here and my glutes aren't that well, people will go here. And you see whole chain of reactions in my body. So it's not just my hip that's going down. Because my hip is going down, my spine has to compensate, and I'm not in that neutral position anymore. All because I actually want to lift my leg. So think about the whole chain of reactions that's going. So if I want people to stay here, I would say, like, stand on your both feet, shift your balance a little bit to the left, contract your glutes, pull your belly in, slowly lift your heel, pick up your foot, and then maybe they can stay here if they're strong enough. And maybe if they're not strong enough for long enough, they would go here again. But then they know, like, contract here and they can come back. So there's a total chain of reactions. Our back moves a lot together with our belly. And the biceps and the triceps, there are like a couple as well. And the traps, like the trapezius dorsi, together with your chest muscles, they work again as a couple. And many people, if you have to push a lot, or if you lift weights a lot, those muscles, those pectoralis muscles, they will be like in good shape, but often we forget the muscles in the back. And it's needed if we want to keep our body in balance. We need to train both the agonist and the antagonist. So think about those couples. If you want to train your chest muscles, you have to train the muscles of your back also, because otherwise you will be here. And if you are here and we go back to the lifting of the shoulder, I'm here, I can lift my arm, but if I want to go higher, then everything, is locked already. So I need to keep my shoulders back So I have the freedom in my shoulder to go up. So always think about those couples. They work together in yogic poses. They work together in the whole life. And I think the last one I want to end with, it's the belly muscles, because many people, they work on their abs and many times they forget to also take the back muscles with them. So if we work a lot on the belly, not on the back, and we are sitting in our chair all day over here, then we create a big issue because the bellies are like very powerful, the back muscles not. During life, we sit here a lot, so the back muscles elongate and weaken. So we must train the back muscles as well. And the belly muscles, most of the time, if I ask people to contract the belly, they will start like showing me, yeah, but I do ab workouts and I can do that very well. And I can do at least 100 times. But then if I ask them how they do it, they actually just use the rectus abdominis. So that's the one going here. So that's the one who gives the six pack. And they forget that we actually have this whole intertwining of all belly muscles who protect our whole intestines, but also make a great couple together with our back. So if I will end with the abs. So the rectus is going from here towards there, towards your pelvis. That's the one we all know. We know the six packs. We know how they look like. But the more important ones are the obliques. They're going from here over there, and they go around like a little bit. Here would be the rectus, so here. And then we have the obliques going from another side. They go from here towards there. So this would be, if I want to make a rotation, this would contract, but on the other side, the lower part would contract. So the obliques, they form, like for women, if they, here you have the curve, many times this is formed by the obliques. In the middle, this is formed by the rectus abdominis. So this is the six pack, this is the tibia, but the more important one is the one layer even more deeper. And this is the one going here. This is the transversus. And the transversus is going from your back up to the front and actually making this a whole good package. If we only would work with a six pack and our spine, then we just have this layer. But if we work with the whole abs, we have this side layer as well, which is actually protecting our whole intestinal system, but also protecting our back a lot. And because we are standing creatures, we have to protect our back. We want to lift things with our arms. We want to lift things with our legs. And I want to show you how you can make sure that you are contracting your transversus. And I hope it will work if I go down. Okay. So if we are here and I would just pull my head up, you can already see that my belly is working. And first, I will contract how I see many people doing it. They go here. You have the abs going up, and I hope it's you can see it on the video. But if I go just up with my head, and the six pack is, well, I don't have six pack, obviously, but the rectus is going up. This is the main part for going up. But the protective part for your back is the lower one. This is the transversus, so the one running here. And I immediately see if people contracted, because you first ask to pull the belly in. My belly is in now, and if I come up now, you don't see the muscles popping up. If I don't contract the transversus anymore, I would be here. So if I contract the transversus, like the middle, the most inner part of your belly muscles, you stay low. So this is how you can do it. You ask first people to pull the belly button in. Probably the pelvis will go a little bit backwards. Remember, the pelvis position is always from the upper part, seen from the upper part. So the upper part is going back, your belly is going in, and then I ask them to lift. And if the belly button stays in, I know they are contracting the internal muscular system as well. So they are contracting the transverse abdominis. If the belly button goes up again, then I know for sure they most of the time they're only contracting the rectus. So yeah, I think this is a nice one to close it, because we want to make sure that we all take care of our body temple, and we want to take care of our back, of our knees. So remember, in the warrior poses or other poses, try to keep the knee above the ankle, not in front of it, because that's stressing a lot. But also if we are contracting, if you're working with the abs, always ask to like pull the belly button in, and always try them to help elongate the spine, because then they naturally will pull the belly in. Or sometimes if they don't get it, ask to, if you put down a trousers, which is actually too small, and you pull your belly in to like tie the button, then they would pull the belly also in with the transversus abdominis. So, and always think about the couples working together. If you want to strengthen one part, like if we're doing a lot of planking, for example, planking can strengthen also the pectoralis, like the chest muscles, but we also have to strengthen the back muscles. Our whole back is working at the time if you do the plank, but you also have to contract your belly muscles and think in the first place of the inner part, the transversus, so the belly button in. And then you know for sure that in a plank, you're like in a safe way. If people stay in a plank, over here. If people stay in a plank like this, then you know that the belly is contracted too much. If they would be here, then you know they don't contract the belly at all. And if they would be more here, you are pretty sure that they are contracting and the back muscles and the belly. So always look at the pelvis where it's at. If they're too low, they probably are not contracting that well. So that's for now. I think the heads are full enough right now.
Great job, Floor. I want to just say thank you for all of that. You're brilliant. Did anybody have questions? We have just a few more moments today, and I want to make sure that you have opportunities. I saw you kind of open it up for questions, but I don't think anybody asked any. You could post them in the comments, or you could also unmute yourself. Lori's saying thank you, Floor. Emily, thank you so much. Yeah, so if you guys have questions, or if you just want to, unmute yourself and say something out loud, you're welcome to do that as well. But I just want to say thank you so much for Flo. She has such a wealth of knowledge, and her understanding of this anatomy aspect, because of her background in physical therapy, is really, really beautiful and advanced. And she's one of our 500-hour certified teachers. And one of the cool things about being at that level is that you can offer CEU workshops, event retreats, and continuing education for other teachers in the yoga profession and also in the wellness profession. So that's why I encourage her. And also she has a really cool, like kind of her own retreat center in the Netherlands, which I can't wait to come visit her one day there. And I think you said it's about an hour outside of the main city, right? What's the nearest city there?
Well, the nearest city is Eindhoven. So it's half an hour from Eindhoven. It's a 1.5 hour by train from Amsterdam. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so anybody's thinking of doing Amsterdam, you should definitely go and meet her and do her classes. She's been doing events and workshops and classes, and they're a really cool like retreat home property that has this big center. And I really think this setting is so great too for even the Zoom, like the way that you set it up. It was really easy to see you and you speak so clearly and so beautifully. So thank you so much, Flor. And like I said, you can definitely stay in touch with her. She's in the Facebook group. I actually tagged her today because I shared the replay for this over to our Facebook group. So you can add her as a friend, stay in touch. And she might also be in the WhatsApp group, but I'm not sure. If not, are you in the WhatsApp group?
I'm not sure. I'm in the Bali WhatsApp group.
Okay, I'll add you to this other one. We haven't. We have a bunch of groups, but anyway, this one is like more for the current group.
Just put me in the right one.
All right, I'll put you in the new one. But yeah, and I'm grateful for this, and you did such a great job. And like I said, this is a fundamental part of the yoga. You know, like if you don't understand the mechanics of what's really going on in the body, you know, it's harder to be a good teacher. And what really sets you apart as a good teacher is the knowledge and the embodiment of that knowledge, the way that you're able to not only know stuff, but like communicate that. That's what makes a good teacher. And the best way is to become a sponge, learn, and then practice communicating that. And that's what in the yoga teacher training, we have the homework, which is like you have to teach everything every day. So today, if you want, you can post your homework about something that you learned from Flor, and be sure and credit her. And also, by the way, her yoga studio is called Floga, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. So you'll have to share, go in the Facebook group, share your website link so everybody can check that out, because it's so cool. She even put this. I'm gonna make a post about her on our Instagram too. But she made like a big beautiful sign out front, and it says Floga. It's like so cool. I'm so proud of you. You know, you're doing so great.
Brought some color to the street as well. So we noticed that many people also say like, oh, at Floga you have to go left or go right. And
that's cool. So smart. Yeah, it's marketing, you know. And I don't know if did you ever do the full Master Business Academy aspect of the online training? Have you done?
Not completely. I did parts of it, and I know for myself that I did choose to do like series from workshop series. That's actually what you do with the retreats as well. But like people cannot come and go certain lessons with me. They just engage themselves for 11 lessons in a row. And then I can refer to it the next time as well. And I noticed that it was a little bit difficult for that to do it in the Netherlands because they're not used to it. But for me, it's much easier. And now that the students get along with it, they can see why I do it this way. And one lady, she even told me like last time, like, I didn't want to go, but I knew I wouldn't be refunded if I didn't come. So I came, and I'm glad I came, because now she didn't miss a part, which I will build on again in the next session.
Yes.
That's something that's pretty cool as well, that if you can build together with other people, if you can take your yogis along in a journey, like I try to do that with you guys today to build it up in the class. And if there would be any questions, just ask me now or later, or say it to Dashma and I will come back on again. That's
so smart. I want to say thank you for sharing that. And I love that. It's what I used to always, and I still do, is because when there's two aspects of that: immersion, and the other part is commitment and discipline. So when people commit to, like you're doing 11-week series or whatever it is, like I did the 30-day yoga challenge, so I would make people commit to 30 days, but some period of time, get them to commit because it just benefits them so much more, because they're going to get a lot more benefits and results from that committed action than just popping in here and there, like in and out. So that in and out, kind of like just coming when they want, it's like very non-committal, and the results are very low in that. Whereas if you want to help people, really encourage to them, I'm here to help you get results. And the best way to get results is commit to a period of time, and we're going to build on everything. Each time it's getting deeper and deeper, and you're going to get more and more results. That's really what I've always seen in my work as a coach, that the best way to help people see real results. And I think most people, they're looking for results. And if you can show people to get results, then they will obviously keep coming back. So that's what you want to see.
Track them this way as well, because some people, obviously for some people this won't work because they think, oh, but I want to come and go and come and go. But those are not the yogis I want to attract. I want to attract the yogis that are there like, yeah, I want to come and I want to learn something here. And I even say then like, okay, you buy 10 classes and you get the 11th free. And then some say, oh, if I come 10, can I come for the 11th as well? I said, yeah, I would be very good if you come for the 11th as well, because I want the yogis that are engaged to really learn. And it's not how far they come. It's all about the journey, but just taking that journey for themselves and standing up for themselves and saying to their spouses like, okay, I'm sorry, but I have to go to yoga class now. This is my moment. And sometimes spouses don't understand it. And if you would say, yeah, but I don't get a refund if I don't go. Oh, yes, but if you don't get a refund, just go. But actually, the most important part they're missing that day is their own yoga class. They own growth.
You know, it's a funny thing. It's a good point. I want to just iterate what you're saying, is that people value what they pay for, and this is important, right? So it's like in their mind, like they're like, I'm gonna go just because I don't want to lose the money. But in the end of the day, it's not about the money at all. It's literally about the fact that they should go. But like the normal consciousness talks itself out of doing things that are good for you. Like it's like, oh, I want to do something. I have all these other things. I have this long list of other things I should be doing. And so the money, actually, oddly, the way that society and the way that human consciousness is working is that people will go because they don't want to lose the money. But it's not about the money. It's actually just about getting them to go.
It's their experience they're missing. It's their journey they're missing. So that's also, I think I also want to point it out, because with the homework you're doing for the flow state as well, you can just hand it in because you have to hand it in. But I always took it very seriously. I went like completely deep with it, and I wanted to do it as good as I wanted, because I want to take something out of it for myself. And now afterwards I can see, and it really has been beneficial for me, because now if I want to prepare a class, I can go back to my homework and take like, okay, around this chakra, what would I want to do? What did I write down? I just didn't hand in like the easiest part. I went all the way, but now I already prepared classes for it. So if I want to give a class now, I can go to my homework, I can adjust some things and then go with it. So I want to encourage like the same system with the flow state homework as well. Like just go deep in it just for yourself, not for the flow state.
That's true. That's a good point, and it is. And I see the people like Emily. I see her. She's like one of the most proficient, prolific. I'll use the word. And Jennifer, Emily and Jennifer, and I see Shane in there a lot, like posting your homework a lot. And I just love it, because sometimes I see like Emily and Jennifer will post like 10 in one day. So I can just tell they just did like a bunch. It's like, but it's so exciting, because when I like exactly what Floor just said, is that it's for you. So like when you do it, it's like you're the one that wins. You benefit. You're learning, but also you're doing yoga. And like the great thing that your homework is to do something that's super healthy for you. And hopefully you guys are feeling that and feeling good from the practices. And I love to see all of that. So keep it up. And yeah, I try to go in the Facebook group every day and comment when I can. And also if anybody ever has any questions, we do have a WhatsApp group, we have the Facebook group, we have the app. So we have all these different resources. And so feel free to utilize those, connect with us at any time. And yeah, and if you have any friends that would like to join us, please do let us know, and you can earn 10% commission for any referrals for the YTT. And also, I just wanted to mention, we're getting ready to launch our exciting thing, the BFF Gift Club, which I've been working on. It's so beautiful. It's like, you can see Bright Future Foundation, and it's got all these like flower of life. It's all like sustainable, eco-friendly packaging. This like thing is not letting me show you, but basically we have all of these amazing products. So we have like these elixirs. This is something I'm actually addicted to. It's like cacao. Each one has a different flavor. We have cacao. We have this one. It's like an energy drink. It's called I Am Source Energy. It's chai flavor. And then we have this one that's going to be coming out soon, which is I Am Divine Feminine. This is all female hormone balancing. It helps your hair grow. It's got all these herbs. This is one of my favorite ones too. This is I Am Blissful. Then it has like all these cellular regeneration herbs and also magnesium to help you sleep. So all of the products, and then we also have this, which is like our oils. I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. This is an oil I'm so excited about. Like this is something so interesting. I even put it on my hands now. It has a natural retinol that I found that's from Africa. It's an oil, all natural, but literally it makes your hands look like so, like it makes them younger. Like I was wondering, like, because my hands were starting to look older. It was weird. So then I found this product. So that's why I created this. And we're getting ready to launch this with 250 influencers starting next week for our Black Friday, like holiday launch. But I just wanted to let you guys know about this because you're in like the close tribe. And so we're going to be doing this all throughout the holidays. And this is a really cool gift idea for your friends and stuff. But also anybody who's enrolled in the teacher training, we're gonna send you a gift box. So we'll let you know more about that pretty soon, whenever we're like next week. But I just wanted to let you know about that. And we also have an affiliate program. And one of the other things about this is these meditation bracelets, which I'm so excited about. I love these. They turned out so beautiful. It's like real crystals and this gold pendant. And it says BFF and it has like a little heart on there. And this is a meditation bracelet that we're using to teach people how to meditate. And you just, like each bead is a breath. So basically you teach people a simple way to use meditation, breathing, and affirmations in like an approachable way. This is something you could even teach to kids and stuff. So anyway, I'll be teaching more about this pretty soon. I'm going to share in my Instagram and you'll see a lot of stuff about this. But if anybody wants to be a part of our affiliate tribe, you can also join that. And you can see that at brightfuture.org. You can check it out. You can join the affiliate community. And that way you can get 10% off for your friends and family. And also you can earn 15% for any referral. So these are all additional ways that we create to help you guys make extra income at this early stage before you even graduate, and also have like additional cool things that you can help when you do graduate. And as a teacher, it's always good to have resources of ways to get people into health and wellness that are fun, that are approachable, that are beautiful. And so that's really the intention behind this. And also it's connected to the Bright Future Foundation. So all of the proceeds, net proceeds from these products are all going to help with our initiative with the children's mental health, with scholarships and programs for children, teachers, and families, as well as veterans. We have a number of partnerships that we're working on to bring health and wellness to this mental health crisis on the planet right now. So everything that, spreading the word just supports everybody. Let's see. I see Alexandra asked a few questions. Hold on. Alexandra, Flora, do you have any favorite poses to bring balance between the anterior and posterior sides of the body? Hey, that's a great question. Oh, and then she answered it. Depending on the imbalance, if some muscles are short or weak, do you want me to come on to explain the specific problem? Right. Okay. Do you guys want to bring that out? Because specifically since so many people are slouched over, rounding in the shoulders. Oh yeah. Okay. Go ahead and answer that.
Yeah. Well, if you have the rounded shoulders, then most of the time there are like two main problems. One is that the muscles over here are too short. So that those are too short, and that those over here are too weak. So, and then you have to combine those two together. So the best, for me, the best stretch to start with, that like the pectoral muscle to stretch those. And I hope you can see it if I lay down on my belly. Yes, you can still see it. So you cactus out your arms, so your arms would be like this. And then you bend over the legs. And depending on which part is too short, you have to go higher with your arm or lower. Because if you go higher, this part would stretch more. If you go lower, that part would stretch more. You actually can imagine the pectoral muscles like this. This is how they are waved out. So arms, you cactus out your arms. Place one hand beside your chest and then bend your legs and turn over. So this is a very good stretch for the pectoral muscles. So if you would be on the floor, the arm would do this. So you would stretch those muscles. And if the stretch is too intense, sometimes the nerve can be impinged and then the hand can go to sleep, or the veins can get impinged and your hand would go to sleep. So you have to go gently in it. Don't stretch too much at once. As you remember from the start, muscles, they are, well, there's a lot of blood going through the muscles. So they will heal quite easily, but the tendons won't. And you will stretch the tendons over here as well. So if you lay down on the floor, this would happen as you turn away with your chest. So depending on if I go higher, you can see here that this part would stretch more. If I go lower, you could see that that part would stretch more. So first of all, stretch the muscles from your chest. So that's one way to stretch it out. Also, if you lay down on your belly or just sitting, pulling your elbows back, this gives two things, like you're contracting your shoulder muscles, and while contracting them, you remember the story of the agonist and the antagonist. So while contracting the muscles on your back and between your shoulder blades, the chest muscles will relax. So by just pulling your arms back, those will relax and stretch at the same time. So an exercise I do regularly behind each other would be first to let them lay down on their belly, cactus out the arms, one hand beside the chest, bending the legs, turn away. You maybe can place a block over here to place your head on it. So then they can stretch the chest muscles. And after that, I will combine it with making the muscles from the shoulders stronger. So face down, forehead on the mat, and then first lift the hands and wrists, then lift the elbows. Maybe ask them to try to pull the elbows down in the opposite back pocket. And after that, lifting the head, but stay looking down, like not looking forward, because then it stresses the neck too much. But this way, you make the shoulder blades, the muscles between the shoulder blades, like the rhomboideae, you make them stronger, and you stretch the muscles from your chest muscles. At the same time, if you go higher, you also have your back muscles, which are more, which you train more. So it's a combination. Like if they are slouching a lot, only the shoulders, definitely first stretch and then make them more powerful, the back muscles, but also the muscles in your back, strengthen them by just laying on your belly and going up. And always remind to keep your spine healthy, you have to combine the back muscles together with your abdominal muscles, because otherwise you probably will force something. So if you would do the camel as well, if you go back, like from here, you pull in your belly muscles and then go back. But if you lay down on your belly as well, while you pull the arms up, you also want to contract your belly. If you go up with your chest and your back, always contract your belly as well. So probably the Sphinx pose can help as well, a little.
Those were really good. And there's so many different yoga poses that do the principle that she's describing, which is you need to stretch the front and you need to just strengthen the back. And that's kind of like the principle. And the other principle of it is mindfulness. What we always talk about is the 5 wheels. So you have your ear, this is one wheel. You have your shoulder, that's a wheel. Then you have your hip, and you have your knee, and you have your ankle. So these 5 wheels should be aligned. And when people are slouching, obviously they're not, right? So then this is forward, this is forward. So bringing people up and then encouraging them to roll the shoulders down and back and even poke out the chest in the beginning, exaggerating that movement or this kind of like makes it more aware that they were slouching, because some people slouch so much they don't even know they're slouching. So you have to like exaggerate the opposite of that sometimes in order for them to even have the awareness that it's what's going on, and then they can find that middle ground. But most people will tend to round forward because it's like your body is already shaped that way. So you have to really strengthen the back and stretch the front like she was describing in order for it to become natural and comfortable to be in perfect alignment. And so it takes time. That's why we were having that conversation a bit ago about getting people to commit to doing it and like doing it consistently every week or every day. That's when they're going to see the results. Whereas if they're doing it here and there once a month, they're not going to see this type of results. And so that's really, if you're working with people, you want to encourage them to every day, even if it's just 5 minutes, work on stretching the front, work on strengthening the back. And then over a period of time, it becomes natural. And then your posture is in perfect alignment naturally. But until then, it's like working your way to that.
And I see with female inclined practitioners, they understand it better to say like, put the chest out, like showing your breast. And for the inclined practitioner, most of the time it helps to say like, pull the shoulders back. And what I often do say to get the position right, because we don't want to do them this way or that, is try to put the shoulder blade, like the lower part of your shoulder blade, in the opposite pocket. So this would be it. So otherwise, they are trying to this or that, but like pull it in the opposite pocket. So, and I sometimes draw a cross like on the back, so they feel like, oh, okay, I have to go down. Also, not this, because if you go back too much, then you will rotate your shoulder again. So don't want to have that. We want to have this, like, don't go too far. This is the first you can go. And if they go here, you see the rotation is coming again. And then you have the going forward from the shoulders again.
Yeah. Great job, guys. And does anybody have any other questions? Please feel free to let us know. Otherwise, we're kind of wrapping it up for today. And really grateful for you, Floor. You did such a great job. The replay is available on YouTube. I also posted it in the Facebook group. And so, you can go back to this as well if there's any parts that you felt you wanted to watch again. And have a beautiful, blessed Sunday, a wonderful week. And we love you. Let's do an Om together to just bring harmony to the world. Take a deep breath. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. Namaste, my friends. I'll see you.